Members, before we begin proceedings this morning, on behalf of the Planning Committee, I would like to pass on our deepest condolences to family, friends and colleagues of Councillor Maureen Mackay, who sadly passed away yesterday morning. I would also like to recognise Councillor Mackay's contribution to the Planning Committee spanning over many years, and I certainly valued her opinion and experience during my short time in the committee. Just thought we'd recognise that before we go on with proceedings. Thank you. Cheryl, could I ask you to call the head and intimate any apologies, please?
Thanks, Chair. If I just run through the date, can you indicate your attendance, please? Councillor Graham Barton.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl.
Councillor John McGee.
Yep.
Councillor Ellen Friel.
I'm here, Cheryl. Thanks.
Councillor Elaine Cowan. Councillor Peter Mabin.
Present, thank you.
Got apologies from Councillor Claire Maitland. Councillor Linda Mabin.
Here, thanks, Cheryl.
Councillor William Lennox.
Here, thanks.
Councillor Billy Crawford. Thanks. Councillor Neil Watts.
I'm here, Cheryl.
Got apologies from Councillor Drew Felson. Councillor Jennifer Hogg.
I'm here, thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Cheryl. Members, are going to move on to item 1 on the agenda, and that's declarations of interest. Councillor Mabin.
Hi, thanks, Chair. Just for transparency, I currently sit on the board of the 9cc group, and I believe that this potentially is one of the wind farms that may be involved. So I thought I'd better make you aware.
Thank you, Chair. And just to clarify, Councillor Mabin, from your perspective in making that declaration in interest of transparency, I take it then you're also saying that there's nothing financial or otherwise that would prevent you from sitting and dealing with it?
Absolutely not.
Nothing. Thanks, Councillor Linda Mabin. Don't see anybody else. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to item 2 on the agenda, and that is planning application number 23/0469/PP. That's construction and operation of Enoch Hill 2 wind farm comprising of erection of 2 wind turbines of up to a maximum blade tip height of 149.9 metres and a battery energy storage system with a total installed capacity of 21 megawatts. And associated infrastructure, including access tracks at Enoch Hill 2 wind farm, located approximately 6 kilometres southwest of New Cumnock and approximately 9 kilometres to the east of the settlement of Dunmelling in East Ayrshire. I'm going to hand over to David to take us through the presentation.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, members. The purpose of this report is to present a major development scale planning application for determination by the Planning Committee. The application site is located in upland forested land approximately 6 kilometres southwest of New Cumnock off the Afton Road. The development comprises of 2 turbines up to 149.9 metres high, battery storage and associated infrastructure. Access is taken off the Afton Road and primarily follows existing forestry tracks to be upgraded until reaching the main development area around Strandled Hill. Consultation responses are set out at paragraphs 10 to 25, noting that no consultee has raised an objection, subject to use of appropriate conditions to control various matters. One representation from a third party, neither supporting or objecting to development, is summarised at paragraph 26. Prior to moving on to the assessment of development, I'll share some details of the development for some visual context, if you bear with me. This slide here just shows the site location and the context. You'll note the authority boundary in black to the south and to the eastern side of the map. Application site there outlined in a reddy brown colour coming off the Afton Road. And this is development location plan outlining the extent of the site in red set within the forestry. And this slide shows the site layout, noting the access track through the forestry running from Afton Road until it reaches the main development area, comprising of compounds and battery storage, and the turbines in the southwest. This is a proposed main development area site layout, noting in more detail the location and extent of compounds. New track, hard standings and turbine locations. The turbine locations on and around Strandled Hill itself, with the compounds just to the east there. This slide is the site access, noting the upgrade to the existing access to accommodate the abnormal load vehicles and the creation of a temporary turbine delivery storage area, and that's the area in purple. This is the ZTV, the zone of theoretical visibility for the site. So yellow is where the two turbines may theoretically be visible. This is not accounting for any buildings, forestry or any other vegetation and screening. So this is a bare earth approach. Members will be aware of seeing these for different wind farms before. You'll note that most of the visibility of this development is to the north, towards the settlements of New Cumnock and up towards Cumnock and beyond. And these next slides will just start to take you on to a handful of the representative viewpoints, just for your awareness. This slide and the next couple are from the Lochside Hotel to the north, 8.5 kilometres distance. The turbines that are proposed are in blue in the centre of the wire line with the current view above it. And to the left and to the right, the green turbines are Penclow Wind Farm, which is currently under construction, and Enoch Hill on the right-hand side, also currently under construction and nearing completion. And one of the photo montages showing the two turbines located centrally there on the hills. This one doesn't have the adjacent wind farms rendered into this viewpoint here, but you'll have an idea from some of the following ones what it will look like in comparison to the other sites. So turning now to this next set of slides, this is the B741 at Bank Glen. This is approximately 5.7 kilometres north. Again, showing the turbines in blue with the green turbines of the two under construction sites to the either side. And the photo montage this time showing the rendered turbines of the Penclow wind farm, which will be to the left, and the Enoch Hill wind farm to the right, showing how these two turbines will sit with those two under construction and what will eventually be operational schemes. And the next set of slides is from New Cumnock Cemetery. It's approximately 6.8 kilometres northeast. Again, showing the turbines in blue on the wire line. And again, the photo montage with the two under construction schemes rendered into this picture for context to see how these turbines sit with the existing and consented and under construction scenarios. This is viewpoint 7 from Pathhead in New Cumnock, 8.6 kilometres northeast. Again, turbines in blue on the wire line. And rendered photo montage showing the two turbines in the centre with the under construction sites either side. And this is the Council's cumulative wind farm map and major project map that we add to all of these presentations. Just note in the Afton area, east of the turbines, the Afton wind farm is operational and the Penclow wind farm is currently under construction. To the west is the Enoch Hill wind farm, which is also under construction, and North Kyle wind farm to the north, also under construction. So an area that is currently subject to quite considerable change and that over the next number of months will be completing. She'll stop sharing this and return to the presentation if you bear with me. So just turning now to the assessment, the key matters of interest are set out from paragraphs 35 to 86, noting that strong in-principle support for such development is gained from national and local policies. No unacceptable landscape and visual impacts are anticipated, with the main impacts of development to the north, but that with the presence of the nearby under construction and operational wind farms, impacts are reduced and the turbines appear part of a wider landscape of turbines. No unacceptable impacts on the natural environment, soils, the water environment, forestry, archaeology or heritage are expected, subject to planning conditions. Biodiversity enhancement can be achieved on site and will tie into works for the Enoch Hill wind farm, and impacts and bats can be managed by condition in a similar manner to the Enoch Hill development, largely as requested in the representation by the Ayrshire and Bat Group. Limited impacts will be experienced at properties with significant separation distances, reducing visual impacts and no unacceptable noise impacts. Traffic and transport presents no unacceptable impact. Of note is that no borrow pits are proposed for this development, therefore stone will require to be imported to the site. As such, maximum peak deliveries are anticipated in month 5, equating to 96 HGVs, which is 48 in and 48 out per day over approximately 8 working days. Works will be controlled by a construction traffic management plan and working times condition to manage potential impacts on the road and at neighbouring properties to the road. With the removal of Afton and Penclow wind farms from the potential cumulative construction scenarios, as both will be operational, the only potential cumulative impact is Log wind farm, currently at application stage. No particular cumulative construction traffic impacts are envisaged as previously reported for that development at a previous planning committee. Of note is that ARA and Transport Scotland have no objections. As noted within the conclusions, paragraph 87, subject to the imposition of planning conditions in a legal agreement, the development is considered to be compliant with the development plan, and other material considerations are generally supportive of the development. Legal and financial risk implications are set out at paragraph 88 to 91, noting that the applicant would be expected to enter into a legal agreement with the council to secure a planning monitoring officer and a financial guarantee. The applicant has agreed to this in principle. Finally, proposed planning conditions are set out on page 21 to 42 of the papers, with the recommendation being to approve the application subject to those conditions and the conclusion of a legal agreement prior to the issue of the consent. Thank you.
Thanks, David. I think this is the first sub 50 megawatt application we've had for a considerable time. I think the visual rendering was very helpful done in the presentation. I'm going to open it up to comments and questions to members of the committee. Don't see anybody online. But I had a kind of question that basically, obviously, 96 HGV movements on the Afton Road. Just get some clarification that previous improvements that's done that road, David.
Sure, Chair. Yeah, the 96 is over a short period of time. There's two kind of main peak months where there'll be a more substantial number of HGVs, and most of the other months are quite limited, and it's just essentially to bring the stone in, and with the real peak is related to a bit of the stone and some concrete deliveries all happening at the same time. Previously, the Afton wind farm was constructed and used Afton Road. That access was at the far end of Afton Road, so the substantial improvement works were done to the Afton Road through that consent, so including improvement of passing places and new passing places were added. So we currently have Penclow under construction. They didn't have to add any further passing places, largely reliant on the works that were done for Afton, which was a much larger wind farm than certainly these two turbines are. So yeah, subject to control through the traffic management plan, and with the works that were put in place on the Afton Road, we think that it would be there would be no unacceptable impact, but certainly we are very cognisant of those 2 months of much more significant vehicle HGV movements, and would certainly be looking for that to be carefully controlled to the TMP, and would be certainly speaking to the developer to make sure that they're fully aware of that, because that's the time where there probably would be the chance for most disruption, but we think that can be controlled properly.
Thanks, David. I was going to ask another question, but I see, Councillor Watts, you had your hand up. Were you want to come in?
Oh, it's dropped down. No, I was just going to say, to be fair, I'm looking at this application and I know we've got it down for approval. However, I'm getting quite concerned, to be honest, at the level of the wind farms that are going within the area. We seem to be almost exacerbating with the amount that are going in. which is having a major effect really on the local communities with visual impact. As a general, I mean, Newcombe now is surrounded literally by wind farms, which in my view is it's having a devastating effect on the local environment generally, as well as the well-being of the communities. So it was just really to make a point there, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Watts. And Councillor Lennox?
Thanks, Chair. Bit along the lines of what Councillor Watts was saying there, I might not have the same level of real concerns, but there's going to come a point in time, in my opinion, where we reach saturation point in that particular location in terms of the amount of activity, wind farm activity we see in there. Similarly, I'm hoping, and it kind of sounds like what David was saying in terms of the transport management plans, etc., that are being imposed. I'm hoping that we'll learn some lessons from HGV activity in other locations within the authority. So I'm just hoping that we don't see similar issues up there transpiring through cumulative effect, etc. The other point is really just a kind of generic point that given the level of activity that we're seeing in that particular area, it might be worthwhile for planning committee just to take a wee tour up there just to see all that activity that's going on and give a better appreciation on the ground of what's happening. So that's just a suggestion in that sense, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Lennox. I did a quick look there with Pamela, and I think that's something we could probably organise at some in the future. But I'm going to bring in David to touch on your traffic management.
Yeah, in terms of Councillor Watts and Councillor Lennox points, it's not a continued, just because there's turbines we can continually add more. There can be a cumulative tipping point where we say no more, that it would maybe reach a point where there would be unacceptable landscape effects. But we do have a policy regime that is very supportive of these type of impacts, but it's not just a case of just because we've got some that will always support them. As more developments come forward, they will be assessed on their own merits, as we always do, and we bring a recommendation to you with our best advice that we can, but that does not mean that we will always recommend approval or no objection. So we will fully assess everyone that comes forward. And in terms of some of the traffic impacts, there are a lot of developments, and I mentioned the various developments are taking place down there, but they're not all off the Afton Road. Some are off the B741, and others in the kind of general surrounding area. But I do appreciate there is quite a bit of traffic. Most of these developments are currently under construction, and we've had almost no complaints. I know Councillor Watts forwarded me one this morning about a complaint on the Afton Road, but other than that, we've had no complaints in terms of traffic impacts. But we will investigate that with the developer and see exactly what's going on and remind them of their responsibilities. Most of those schemes that I did mention will also be operational by the time Enoch Hill 2 comes for construction, because by the time we issue actually a consent, if members were minded to support it, and then the discharge conditions and actually get on site, these construction sites remain ongoing, and they will be heading towards conclusion. So there is a kind of a general decent number of large-scale construction sites, but for the most part, we think they've been handled quite well. We've had very few complaints across all of them, considering the size of the developments, and this one should be able to do the same and subject to the proper controls that we put in place through our conditions. We reckon it probably should be fine, and we will look to enforce any problems if there were any. In terms, sorry, just a site visit, yeah, we can certainly arrange that. We've got the under construction wind farms. You know, members have been to them before. We can tie it into a visit to one of them. I'm quite certain any of those 3 large scale sites down there would welcome members if that was something that they wanted to do again. You're obviously on North Kyle the last time. It was very early stage construction. I suspect that they would be happy to welcome you back. They're erecting turbines now, so you'll see quite a difference there. There's also quite a lot of council money being spent on ground restoration, part of the open cast works there, so probably quite of interest. But any of those 3 sites, if members wanted to go, or even just generally, we're happy to kind of show you what's happening in the area. So happy to be led by members what you want to do, but site visits are absolutely fine.
Just to say, I think it also, David, would be beneficial as the visual side of it. How is that impacting on, you know, the wider areas as well? So we could maybe do some work of identifying certain locations on that and taking members there to see what's the visual impact of it.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. All the different sites, similar to Enoch Hill 2 there, they give us visuals. So I know some members have been on site visits for the wind farms before, prior to committee, and seen the visuals on site. So we can go to a handful of those representative ones and just see what's happening. It is that cumulative picture and just showing what's going on, but you'll actually see a lot of these popping up out of the ground now if you're down and round about there. So actually, even just being there, you'll probably start to see what the likely appearance is over the next months as most of the turbines start to go in. So, but a specific visit to do that is absolutely fine. Yep.
Yep. Would members be happy to do that then? Yep. Thanks. Okay, Councillor Linda Maven.
Thanks, Chair. It's really just to say, I'm going back to what Councillor Watts was saying about the communities. I note that there's been 4 community councils asked their opinion, and according to paragraph 25, not one of them has made either a positive or a negative response because they just haven't responded. So I'm keen to see where if there is an upset or an annoyance within the communities, where's it coming from if we're not getting responses from the community councils that are asked?
I think it's a fair point. I can only just speak to how our interactions with the communities have been. The wind farms, and I'll probably cuss it now, but they've actually been very well received, I think, on the most part. As far as I can see, we're not getting pushback from the community councils. We get very limited correspondence from local people in terms of any concerns or impacts that they're having. We do get the odd bit of correspondence, but there's certainly nothing that we would judge as being a kind of swell of adverse feeling about them. Partly that is down to the fact that we're not getting representations from the community groups, either in support or objecting. But in the past, we have had community councils that have objected and been quite vociferous. So the opportunity's there, and if they don't take it, I suppose you could infer that there's not a strong feeling, but that's only an observation based on the position that we're in terms of what we see.
Thanks, David. Going to bring in Councillor Hogg, then Councillor Watts, then Councillor Peter Maven.
Right, thank you, Chair. Just in relation to what we've been talking about, visual impact, there are another 2 in the offing down the Doon Valley, and the danger is that Doon Valley is becoming a wind tunnel, stretching down from Hollybush now all the way down to Dunmellington and over to New Cumnock. So I do identify with that, and it is a concern because some of these haven't come to planning yet, and we've just had ideas that they're going to be there, and they're communicating with the groups at the moment. In terms of our communities being involved, I think communities feel that their voices aren't heard in many of these occasions, that the recommendations are that we accept these wind turbines more or less now. And I think they feel a bit disenfranchised, that they feel now, what is the point? And I've heard that from many people within the local community. So I think perhaps our communities have perhaps sat back now because they feel that their voices are no longer are recognised within the planning process, unfortunately.
Thanks, Councillor Hogg. I'm going to bring in Councillor Watts.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to what David was saying, yes, I did forward an email this last evening from a resident that I had at my surgery in New Cumnock with regard to traffic going to the Penclow wind farm, for clarity. But they use the Afton Road, and there is a great deal of concern in the Afton Road with Afton Road residents with speeding traffic, for workers going to and from the Penclow site. So, you know, I mean, I think Councillor Hogg is right. When you look at the community councils, I mean, certainly the community councils within the area, all of them are within the 9cc group. And they may have other motivations to reasons as to why they do not wish to be or to put certain aspects of comment in. But as I said, I just wanted to clarify, to be fair, that the email that was involved was to do with the Penclow wind farm, not the one we're currently looking at this morning.
Thanks, Councillor Watts. I'm going to bring in Craig.
Thank you, Chair. While I understand the kind of views and comments that have been made by a number of councillors in relation to wind farm development, either within the Doon Valley or down near New Cumnock, I think it's incumbent upon me just to remind members that we are dealing with an application, and it is only an application at this stage for Enoch Hill 2, and therefore it hasn't been constructed, and obviously it will be dependent upon the decision of the planning committee here today. And I suppose why I'm saying that, members, is obviously, as you're aware, we need to deal with what's before us in terms of this current application, rather than what may be further down the line in terms of proposals, and deal with this current application on its planning merits, having regard to the terms of the report and obviously what officers have recommended today, and we deal with it on its planning merits.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, I'm going to bring in Councillor Mabin, then I'll bring in Councillor Lennox and then Councillor McGee.
Thank you, Chair. It's the danger of wandering off into a debate and conversation about all wind farms applications that are coming. This one's for 2 turbines, and it's recommended it should be passing. That's the way I'll be voting if it ever comes to a vote. As for doing a site visit, can we wait to the summer, please? Because I don't fancy going up there in this weather. If we need to do it at all, it's quite exposed. I met a young chap this morning who works in the wind farms in New Cumnock, works in the turbines, and he's snowed off, so he's off work today. I would also point out that there's community benefits. I don't see it in the reports, but I expect this would be also subject to the same community benefits that other wind turbine companies are also doing. There's significant benefits to the communities, which might be one of the reasons why community councils are not objecting, because they see that there's community benefits coming to them financially that they can do things with, and also jobs. Hopefully these wind farm companies are negotiating locally and would be taking on local people to work for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mabin. Well, I think we visited North Kyle when it was in the winter, and I would agree with you. We'll definitely try for the summer, but I'm going to bring in Craig in what is planning considerations.
Through you, Chair, it was just to mention that obviously community benefits are not by themselves material considerations in the planning process. And as members will be aware, I think that's one of the reasons why it doesn't feature in the report. That said, I'm conscious that, you know, one of the considerations in the round that is mentioned within the report is obviously the issue of, you know, the jobs, the employability, the economic benefit, you know, which has been mentioned within the report, but essentially matters like community benefits aren't material considerations, and that's why, you know, going forward you're not probably going to see them within the report, or if it's in response to perhaps comments made by, you know, representations that have been made, but no, it's not a material consideration.
Thank you, Craig. I'm going to bring in Councillor Lennox.
Thanks again, Chair. No, Councillor Peter Maben stole my thunder there in terms of the communities are not going to bite the hand that feeds them in the sense of that the community benefits they're going to get, so they're probably less likely to put in an objection or otherwise against these. You've just got to hope that they are representing the communities that they're meant to represent and no acting in their own interests.
Thanks, Councillor Lennox. Councillor McGee.
Aye, thanks, Chair. I'm glad you think that the summer will make a difference when we go up there, but I think it maybe will a wee bit. Just on the, I'm quite happy to go to a decision on this, on its planning merits, but we've opened up a wee bit wider discussion, and I just want to put in my tuppence worth. I mean, when a planning authority or the authority as a whole is gauging opinion, community councils are a statutory consultee. That's where we should be looking for feedback. And I think, as David has pointed out, Ken, there's very little communication to the planning authority regarding the feelings towards the wind turbines. As for folks' voices not getting heard, I can assure folk that this planning committee has a history of turning down wind turbines. We have before. I ken when I was in the planning committee before, we turned down wind turbines because of folks' objections. And we listened to their objections and their concerns. And we turned down the wind turbines based on the planning merits of the wind turbines at that time. So I'm quite happy the way the planning authorities are carrying out their job. And I think for an area, Ayrshire, it's probably supplied this country's fuel for hundreds of years. To see some benefit coming from wind turbines isn't something that folk are prepared to turn down. But again, that's not a planning consideration. So thanks very much, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor McGee. Do we have any further questions on that subject? I had one further question. It's the permanent loss of 10 hectares of forestry. I know there's going to be compensatory planting, but will that be within the local authority, David?
That's the starting point for us. Is it ideally it goes on site first, but it's not always possible. Our next stage is to keep it within either East Ayrshire or Ayrshire generally. The policy at a national level doesn't specifically tie them to that, but we do have planning policy at a more local level that asks for that kind of Ayrshire first type approach. So we've always encouraged that, and other developers have managed to do that. So it would be the same on this one. We'd be looking for it to be as reasonably close as it can, so that benefit essentially stays within the area and isn't just lost. So there's no absolute guarantee, but certainly that's what we push for, and the applicant will be aware of that through planning policy position.
Thanks. I appreciate that they can't plant them back on site, but it's good if we could try and encourage that it stays within the authority, or at least Ayrshire the whole. Okay, members, I don't see any further questions. Recommendations, page 3. It's recommended the planning committee are minded to grant planning permission subject to conditions and conclusion of an S75. Are we happy? Sorry. Oh, Councillor Watts, before I conclude that, you go.
Oh, no, you're fine. I think as we're moving to determination, I just wanted to say, I mean, I actually do feel that we are beginning to reach, I mean, someone mentioned a tipping point earlier. I think we are beginning to meet a tipping point of a level that we've got. I'm very supportive of wind farms and what they bring into our local communities. However, I think we are reaching a tipping point, certainly within this particular area. So, Chair, I would like to propose that we refuse this application due to the significant landscape and increased visual impact on the area. So that's what I would like to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Now, we need a member to second that. No, there isn't anybody seconding your proposal, Councillor Watts, so, but that will be noted in the.
That's fine, as
Fine.
long as that's noted that I'm against the application. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Watts. So the recommendation, members, is the planning committee approve the application subject to the conclusion of an S75 legal obligation. So I've noted Councillor Watts. Is anybody else otherwise minded? No. Okay, then, thanks, Cheryl. Can you just record that? It's planning permission granted. Members, that is the end of the items for discussion. I will now close the meeting and ask IT colleagues to stop the recording.